Yeah, guys, we're Wiki After Dark, and we're also the Low End Gigolos, and we're also Kevin Sanchez, Josh Paladin, Jonathan Kaplan.
Skirt, what up?
What up? And we're also, um, it's Christmas even.
It's
It's
Christmas
Christmas
time.
Eve.
It's Christmas even more tonight. And unlike usual episodes where we talk about a video that you've never seen for an hour, we're going to talk about a video that you've never seen, but not do that the whole episode. Because, I've been thinking about this show, and I'm like, sure, it's interesting that we can make fun of documentaries and stuff. Easy. For us, nothing to it. We can literally almost not watch the documentary and make fun of it.
Okay, yeah.
But
what did you have in mind, kind sir?
So, and then I was like, but what about us? Who gives a shit about some documentary that no one's ever going to watch about things that nobody gives a shit about? What about who we are, as people, right?
Yes.
So then I was like, well, what better way to illuminate our individual humanities, but by talking about Christmas times and holiday times of yesteryear and just having a free-flowing conversation,
I dig that shit.
Yeah.
Well, we also have to, because it's not just Christmas time for some people. People, they don't celebrate Christmas on this podcast.
Who did you have in mind? Who are you thinking?
I'm thinking of Josh Pallet. Josh Pallet celebrates his Christmas. I mean, that's what I'm assuming it is like.
It's interesting. What does Joshua Pallet? When I think of Joshua Pallet and religion, like a blank spot, I'm like, what is it? Something. I know he's mentioned it before on the show, maybe almost as much as I've mentioned that I was in a band. But Josh, you don't celebrate. I don't celebrate Christmas. I do celebrate Christmas, but I don't really celebrate Hanukkah, really. But you literally do celebrate Hanukkah and not Christmas, you're saying?
I celebrated Christmas for a few years because I had a child with a non-Christian woman.
And, a non-Christian woman?
And,
Josh, a non-Christian woman might want to hit the bong again and get that right.
Well, honestly, she wasn't that religious, but, she definitely was a Christmas observer. And I moved, we started living together a few years before Alex was born. So, I had a tree during Christmas. I have pictures of me next to a tree. I used to have my house decorated for Christmas. It was an abomination, and I'm very embarrassed about it.
You didn't like it?
No, I loved it. It was awesome. I was filled with Christmas spirit and cheer, and then she took it all away, which just God wanted to show me that that's just a bunch of bullshit.
That's sad that you look upon a joyous Christmas festivities tarnished by what happened in your relationship.
Well, it's like Biggie said, we wondered why Christmas missed us.
Yep, you're right. Biggie did say that. And then after that time, you never went back and enjoyed anything about Christmas after that?
Well, no, before her, I dated another Catholic girl for like 5 years, and she was Irish, so Christmas was like a huge to-do, and they'd have 30, 40 people in their house. Grandmother would call me a fat Jew by the end of the night.
Really call you a fat Jew? Who is this woman? I want to shake her hand.
She's dead. She was the matriarch of a family. Rest in peace, lady. Fucking call me fat.
So you're telling me you're doing 5 years of Christmases after doing 5 years of Christmases with.
I did a decade worth of Jesus worshiping.
That's cool, man. I mean, I don't consider Christmas having anything to do with Jesus at all.
Yeah.
I
could have cared less about.
Well, it falls into the category of idolatry, so in that way, it's similar.
How the fuck is it idolatry?
How is it not?
Not.
What is a Christmas tree? It's a giant idol.
Gross Cristo. I mean, there's nothing
They sing a song in praise of it. Oh, Christmas tree, we pray to Satan once again.
We're corny, dude. Saying that, first of
That's
all,
the Mayan in you speaking. The Jew in you knows.
no. The Jew in me knows.
Listen, John, she fucking
Christmas
left me, bro. I don't like Christmas anymore.
Well, you're gonna have to like Christmas for the next hour because
Wait. Well, because I had like some like kind of sad Christmases, but then I got some real awesome ass Christmases.
yeah.
But it was like when I finally was accepted by a family, it was like, all right, I guess you're gonna be a part of this. You know?
Yes.
You mean when they wrap the toilet paper and they're like, here, this is for Kevin.
Well, John froze. John?
They apparently froze, but I don't know. We're just gonna see if that helps anything. We'll see if that helps anything. And we'll probably be back in a second.
It stopped recording?
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
No,
you froze up.
I might have to just edit that, whatever. But Kevin, you were saying that you were getting some of the best Christmases of your life was when you were getting accepted by
when it was finally like, yo, we signed the papers, these kids. Like some of my Christmases was like people will show up like, oh shit, they're here. Fuck. We didn't get them a present. All right. So then I remember one time, dude, I guess they really didn't know we were going to be there or not. And I feel like my mom must have told me, yo, they're going to actually be taking away the 23rd. So, it must have been like that because like, I can't wrap my head around them not getting, like, you could have given me anything. I would have been ecstatic. And they did. They went downstairs. Actually, they took some guys' stocking stuffers, whatever they have for stocking stuffers. Like they had like the small soldiers, the
little army men.
Yeah,
how prophetic! Oh my god, the fact that you got those and remembered those.
And they also got me like it was against they had gave me little tiny Indian men. They had like Indian men back in the day. And yo, bro, I played with that for like a full fucking year, bro. I was like a whole year, and I was having a blast too. Like you couldn't tell me nothing.
That's awesome, dude. How old are you? Like 5?
Like 5, like 5, 6 maybe. Like no, definitely 5. And then around 6 when I got like officially adopted, man, those Christmases like those just was fire. So I had like a Batmobile. That's when Batman Forever came out. I think it was Batman Forever.
89 or no, 92 or something like
that.
The
one with Freeze.
Oh, okay. Much later, 97. I forget you're like a child.
Bro, all I knew was I was like, yo, I don't care what Santa do. Hey, yo, tell the homie I need that Batman, that Batmobile. Stat.
Amazing. Right?
Bro, when I opened, first of all, I'm pretty sure that wasn't supposed to be that was supposed to be my gift. Or they made a mistake. One of the two. Because I opened that shit up and I'm like, hey, yo, that's supposed to be for fucking. That's supposed to be. But my face was like, I was freaking the fuck out that they got it.
Wow.
And that was the problem. And they got me like, and I guess they just, whoever's present that was, all his shit came to me. Right? Like, just giving the Batman. He can't have the Batmobile without Batman. Bro,
yo,
it was fucking.
Do you and now this was like, do you remember Christmases before adoption? Or was that too?
Well, I mean, the Indians, like when I was
but like, I guess with this family.
Yeah. I think they forgot like they didn't know 1 year and maybe the second year they were like still iffy, but like it was like 2 years of like what do we do?
Yeah.
Don't get anything too good. He's not really a part of the family. It's like a weird way they do shit.
Wow, you know what it's like? It's like when you're working at a job as a temp, and like you don't get any of the benefits. You don't get any. You're not even allowed to do so. You're walking around there, and then you're like, oh, here. You get a company card. You get
yeah.
You don't have to put your expenses down anymore.
Dude.
Yeah, that's the reference I when I hear that.
We had a good Gigolos Christmas a couple of years ago.
We did have a good Gigolos Christmas with
that was fun.
Yeah, with that girl, with that
Doctor criminal justice student.
Dr. Criminal Justice student. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty wild.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
We
know.
stole Kevin's phone. We played Elf on the Shelf in the bedroom with Kevin's cell phone. You remember that, Kev?
Yeah, I might have those pictures. I deleted them. I don't remember.
I think if I scroll back far enough in our message,
Yeah, we'll find it.
our illicit messages that we send to each other every day.
Yeah.
Facebook keeps log of everything.
Yo, Kevin, were your Christmases with your family, were they wild parties on Christmas?
Yeah, especially at my grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm.
That was a wild ass bitch, yo. Cause she was 75 and just like, she didn't give a fuck. Her husband died. She was drinking as much as Josh could drink, like every day. Right. But and like she would get cases of beer sent up from the store downstairs every week. So she had like 12 cases of Heineken.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was a legit alcoholic.
Legit
Wow.
alky.
I don't drink that much.
Just like Josh, like a complete
just like Josh.
drinking himself to death to
Get out
hide
of your
his
mind.
pain.
So yeah, and then she used to like make food for everybody in the building, right? And especially her floor, and then invite everybody. And then like at a certain time, she's a little too hammered, little on the shit, and she'll just start, she'll start telling her, hey, why are you such a slut? Like just start talking to her neighbors like you're a fucking whore. I saw what you brought in last week. And then start fucking with her. I was like, oh, this bitch is awesome. Oh, and she was like a big defender of me and my brothers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like she was like, yo, this is family. That's it. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yo.
like, that was a big deal, yo. So like she would be like, if she saw anybody like talk shit about us or like away, she'll
those checks were paying for all that beer.
She throw a beer bottle at you. Nah, she had money. She was like
it doesn't matter. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is that she supported Kevin.
Yeah, man, she was the shit, son. She did not fuck around. And if you didn't like us, we get the fuck out of here. I think there was like some people were like trying to talk some shit. She kicked them all out. They get out. I'd rather them here than you.
Dude, it's so amazing to hear that because my mom's adopted, and when I was too young, I didn't like understand the dynamic that was from the people who had her back and the people who didn't. But when I was young, like when we would go to Brooklyn, which they lived right in Williamsburg before it got nice, before it got all gentrified. So like, the old Williamsburg that was like
when the factories are still there.
Yeah, and when it was scarier. But we would go there every Christmas and it was a wild party. It was just so just like a ton of camaraderie and a ton of just everyone dancing to like music and stuff like that. And it was like so alive. And I have these older cousins who like I can say that Josh has like these guys, they were like older than me by 15 years. And the way that they were three brothers, like these three cousin brothers, and the way that they would like knew how to joke around, but also like include new people in a party setting was probably the only like any way that I am able to like cover behaving in a party setting is just learned from these guys. Because like what I always loved was that like I would be like an 8-year-old little kid in the room, and like they were all the adults, like, or not even adults, like older teens, like hanging out. And like my cousin, like Fernando, would know how to like just be like somehow with like 2 words connect whatever he was doing with a little kid and make it like a big everybody welcoming party. And I'm like, from like the youngest age, I'm like, I have to learn how to like be able to be like that in some way or something like that.
Yeah, I love the drunk uncle. The drunk uncle that just pulls everyone together. At first, if you're not, what I found, like, what I observed was like, if people weren't drunk enough, like he was annoying. But the moment people started drinking, yo, he was the shit
Oh.
for everybody, bro.
That's so funny. The drunk uncle. See, the drunk uncle was like definitely in the annoying camp to me because
Really?
like my cousins who were like more savvy, they were like closer in age and also just like they all had different interests that like I would, I would talk to one cousin, he was into music, or I'd talk to the other cousin, he was into fucking science fiction or something like that, or just whatever. But the drunk uncle was always just like already bombed out by the time we got there. And it was just like if an adult talked to him for too long, a fight was gonna start.
That's funny. Yo, Josh, did you ever celebrate Hanukkah?
Christmas as a kid?
No. Did you ever celebrate Hanukkah in Israel?
No, I was never there in the winter time. But I had Christmas experiences as a child. My very first Christmas experience was similar to yours, Kevin, where you opened up the wrong present. My mother had a friend who lived a couple blocks away, and we went up to her apartment, and I think I pulled a box from underneath the Christmas tree and started opening it. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I've told you guys this story. It was Kit from Knight Rider. It was the car.
Yes.
It was the most amazing thing in the world, and it's all I ever wanted, and it fucking talked and everything. And they fucking took it back from me.
Yeah, I would hate Christmas too.
They were like, "That's not for you." And I was like, "What are you fucking, I'm 6, you stupid cunt. Go buy another one."
Gosh, you did not say that.
Well, at least get me one. Be like, "Okay, don't worry. I never got one. I didn't get shit."
You know what, Kevin, and I think you'd agree, we got to address the elephant in the room. And I'm not talking about how Josh used to be when he was fat. I mean, Josh, you're visibly upset right now.
I am.
You are also wearing a cap, like a baseball hat, and that makes you seem dangerous.
Yeah.
You have a shirt with a shark on it, so I like that. So I have a conflict of interest because I love.
I thought you would like this.
Yes, I love the shirt, hate the hat, but more than that, I know that something is going on, and we're going to talk about it right now.
You're giving me John Mulaney out of vibes right now. John Mulaney at what's his name? His talk show.
Did you watch that thing I said?
I did watch it. It was fucking wild.
Didn't I tell you that last night though?
Yeah, you did tell me. Did you see this?
No, I heard John Mulaney is now a cokehead. He went on a bender. Listen, John Mulaney is a great comic, but I don't connect to him as like a person. He seems like a person who would hate me.
Yeah, me too.
I think he'll love Josh, actually. He just, you know what, John Mulaney, if you made it earlier, like 10 years ago, and you and John Mulaney were friends, his wife would be like, you can't hang out with Josh no more.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he'd be like, Josh, I love you, but my wife doesn't want me to hang out with you no more. But he went on this.
Guy does impressions now?
Yo, he went on what's his name?
Seth Meyers.
He went on Seth Meyers' show, and if he went on,
listen, the story broke that he's going into rehab. He supposedly used to be this big cokehead alcoholic, and he's been clean for many years now. And during the quarantine, like other people I heard of, he got really bored and he started entertaining himself with alcohol and cocaine. And anyway, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, he was on Seth Meyers, and I saw it, and I was like, it was the first time I don't usually like his comedy, but it was the first time I was like, oh, this is I like, it's different, And I told Kevin last night when the story broke, I was like, I was never really that into him, but he did this thing on Seth Meyers, and he was fucking completely out of it. It was great. And then they posted today that was like the first warning sign. So you can tell by my taste in comics where my brain is.
So, but let's not
I'm sorry, yeah.
Let's not try to throw me off the scent, Josh. What's going on with you? Something's going on with you that's making you wear a hat, and you're being very quiet. And I know that you're Jewish, so you don't like Christmas, but that's not the whole story.
This has been a very complicated day and time for me.
Right. Okay.
Last night I was on a real high. We went out, we did a couple, mics and shows, and fucking, I felt like we were like somewhere historic, and I did one of the funniest things in comedy ever. It's great.
Was
That's
it
debatable.
dropping? Was it
Debatable.
dropping a phone on the floor and making noises with a chip bag?
It was almost as funny as that. I don't know. I got in front of everybody with my COVID mask and my hoodie on, and I said "Assalamu alaikum," and I told everybody I was recruiting for ISIS.
All right.
And then I pulled my mask and my hat off. I said, "I'm just fucking with you. I'm a burqa salesman." And I got a real laugh out of that.
I bet. It sounds.
He's really proud of this.
Dude, they're hungry. They're hungry out there.
Oh no, they didn't really laugh at it. I laughed at it.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great, John.
The rest of my set was decent. No, Kev?
Yeah, it was decent.
I got some
That's
laughs.
great. You guys are doing great work out there.
But then anyway, that was a good high last night. And then I woke up this morning not feeling so great, and fucking had a hemorrhoid.
Okay.
So like that's already strike one.
To get clearer now.
And so, like my boy Joe is shooting an episodic series with one of my childhood.
That you did get cast in, right?
Yeah, well, maybe I'm casting with my boy Cuppa Joe, right?
Yes.
And this is with one of my childhood fucking heroes. I was the biggest, you heard of the Jerky Boys.
Of course.
This is one half of the Jerky Boys who this is like, I would worship these people when I was a kid,
And on the other hand, geez, hard times for the Jerky Boys doing some.
Well, this is the less successful one. So one of them is working, he's been on Family, he does the voice of Mort on Family Guy, the successful one. They had a falling out.
Right.
These guys. So this is the other half, which is Kamal, which is the Indian guy. But honestly, I like Saul Rosenberg, which is one of the pranks, which is the one that.
Yes, Saul Rosenberg is a classic one.
Saul Rosenberg is
also using the classic Woody Allen, every Jew can do the
Nebuchadnezzar Jew. But now that's Mort on the Family Guy. Johnny Brennan does that on the Family Guy. And Kamal has been like doing independent films and like producing stuff on his own. But like what like Kevin might not know, but this, like these dudes were like the biggest thing in the world. They had a fucking movie out. They gave these guys
it was such a phenomenon when we were.
They had platinum albums. They were they named fucking albums after them. The Radiohead named Pablo Honey after fucking the Jerky Boys and other fucking. Anyway, the point is, here's my fucking childhood hero.
By the way, I never knew that because I was not really a huge Jerky Boys fan, but that's a fascinating concept that I never realized that they named that after them.
Yeah,
also another weird thing that you'd never think of me. I've never even listened to Pablo Honey, the Radiohead album.
It's a good album. You should listen to it. That's the one that has Creep on it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was never really into Radiohead.
Oh, well, you like that song
except Kid A. I was into the album Kid A. That was a good album.
I don't know the album itself.
Anyway,
I remember downloading. I remember they did something innovative in the late 90s. Yeah, it was late 90s. This was the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
They released an album completely for free. I think it was Rainbows or one of these albums.
Rainbows, right. I remember that shit.
And you would go to an online thing and you could just download the whole thing for free. And it was a phenomenon. Like I think something like 20 million people or 40 million people downloaded it like in a few days. It was some crazy
I remember that. That was like 2007. I will say this about Radiohead, and I do want you to continue your Jerky Boys story. But so I like the album Kid A. I remember I hated that song Paranoid Android. That was like the rage of, I think it was OK Computer, which like people are like, that's the best album of all time.
Right.
I fucking could not get into that shit at all. And for me, I've always been like, I was like, nah, fuck Radiohead. Sonic Youth is better. But I don't think that anymore. I think Sonic Youth really only has like 2 good songs. But
I want you to re-list, give them another shot.
Okay.
Fake plastic trees?
They're trying to make fun of trees already. I'm not into it.
No. They're making fun of like it's a song has nothing to do. But please listen to that. That's one of my favorite songs. And when I hear certain songs, I think Kaplan would like that. I think you definitely would like.
I want to hear that playlist. The Kaplan would like that playlist.
Well, I gave you the Shins the other day. That's a great song.
Which, by the way, the Shin song, great song, but that was a very ubiquitous song, like of its day. And I was like, what's crazy to me is that you had never heard that song, and that song in my like circle of experience was so like you couldn't look. There was nowhere way to look and not hear that song. But but that is a good song though. It was just interesting because me and you live in such different spheres of media.
Right.
Anyway, Jerky Boy story.
So anyway, so I fucking, we came back last night and like the guy wanted me to do a self-tape because they recorded a bunch of scenes and the actresses, they rewrote the whole thing because the actresses that they had shoot the original scenes sucked, he said. So he's like very picky and he wants to make sure that he gets the right thing. So, I had poor fucking Kevin and I recording, multiple takes of this fucking thing and sending it. And my boy's telling me, no, that's not what he wants. And then I sent another one and he's like, all right, send that to him. And then he tells me today, he's like, oh, he wants to this way and that. And I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, I'm excited. This is a guy I like, blah, blah, blah. But the other part is like, go fuck yourself, bro.
Wow. So that's why you're depressed?
No, I also haven't had sex in 4 months.
Listen.
And I got offered sex tonight too. And I fucking didn't go.
Because of the podcast?
Well, that and like fucking, I'm just not feeling fucking phenomenal.
Wasn't because of the podcast. You just wasn't feeling well.
No, but I wish. But if you said yes because of the podcast, I would have been like, Kevin, high five.
She's really cute too, but like, I'm like, I was like, am I gonna fucking? I'm gonna get on the subway now. I'm gonna go to the fucking village. And then I'm gonna take a cab home at 2 a.m. for fucking $40.
Jeez, I mean, what is this? Are we in the pandemic or aren't we? What's going on?
Well, there's no subway at fucking night. Then I gotta fucking take a fucking $45 fucking Uber home.
Dude, that sucks, man. Well, listen, I'm sorry. I was saying before the episode is that like it's very hard not to get emotionally wrapped up in this craft or whatever, this thing that we're doing, and make that be the fucking why you're riding high or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, during this pandemic, like one thing that I'm like learning the hard way is that like the more you do put your entire like heart into like, oh, all I care about is like the stock market of like how good I think I'm doing, based on your arbitrary, like based on the arbitrary rules of like what you think good is to you, which could be, happy that you could fucking type a joke into your phone, or like something bigger than that or whatever. And invariably, like you end up feeling like Josh does, fucking feeling like nothing you do is ever going to like scratch that itch. And I mean, without like a kind of support system, then, you try to escape the feeling through bad stuff,
Like Mulaney.
Mulaney,
I mean, listen, I bet you a lot of that has to do with like him not being able to produce things, him not being able to go on the road, him not be able to occupy his mind with other shit,
Actually, it's a perfect entrance point to the documentary that we did watch 35% of this week, which was...
Wait, before we get there, I got one question about
Yeah.
Christmas shit. Did you and your family ever do like Christmas caroling or shit like that?
No, actually, I do want to talk about Christmas a little bit from my perspective, because I think it's like, I don't know, part of this episode I wanted to like share this stuff. So, I have my Jewish side of my family and my Spanish side of my family, and the Spanish parties were always the best. We would always do them Christmas Eve. We'd go to Brooklyn and it would be super fun, super like lively. When I was 11, I think I might have told this on the show before, like that's when like I had this like altercation with people there, and like it was not positive, but like that was just like a passing moment of stuff. Now on Christmas Day, we'd go to my dad's family, And those were like, I mean, it's funny. It's like those were much more. Those were whiter Christmases.
Like
Like
subdued, like
the parties were not like wild and fun and like, everyone just losing their minds. You know what I mean? It was much more like dressed nice, and people like going to have like, coffees and like talking about their jobs and shit like that. But what I did like was when I was younger, when I was younger, we'd all sit at one big table. So like at a certain point, I don't know, my grandma's family decided that they were gonna like put the kids on the separate table, but they didn't do that for like my childhood. And what I always did like was sitting at the table, being like 7, 8, 9, but then like my dad and his brothers would start talking about the old days, and they knew all the shit that they like could finish each other's stories. And my father, my grandpa, had a distribution business. He had a thing called KB Foods, called Kaplan Brothers, and they were like a restaurant supply company. They had a warehouse. They supplied like, tomato sauce, all the different things that a restaurant needs. They had routes all over the city, and they had, they had like, I think in Ozone Park, they had like their what was it?
Distribution?
Yeah, exactly. So
Did
they
he
would
work
tell.
did he end up working with the mafia at any point?
I don't think so. I don't know. I never heard those stories,
Okay.
but they would tell stories about like this business that they all ran, and they all worked, and like, they all like didn't go to school. Like they were just like work in the not the factory. It was fucking whatever, on the trucks and stuff. And it was just like, I always liked to, I don't know, get to interlope and hear all this shit and like be part of the group. And it was always, that was like always like something that I remembered. And then I was like, I don't know, I guess like to be considered, I think I see it. I don't really have that experience. Like I don't feel like nowadays, even like when life was going on socially, I never feel like if a bunch of people are talking about something, like I never feel like, oh, like let me like try to listen in and like get in on the conversation. But when you're younger, that's constantly a thing where it's like you're just trying to like roll with like the older people, you know what I mean?
Didn't you often feel like the way they treat you as a kid is like you weren't allowed to know anything that happened, and it was like always they were speaking in fucking code?
That's why, yes, and that's
I
why,
hated that shit.
yeah, and that's why this Christmas like dinner thing felt different, because it was like the guard, the wall, the fences were down, and I was just like, oh, I'm in the conversation. I can like listen to what they're talking about, even if
Right.
it was some crazy shit. Like, like my dad and his brother used to build go-karts and drive them around illegally around Queens, and they got stopped by the cops, all this shit. And they were telling the story because it was like, it's over. Like no one's gonna feel sore about it now. But you know what I mean? Hearing
Right.
stories that were like bad, or just like trouble at the things people got into.
Right. And like, what's the worst thing that happened? Like, you're gonna go build a go-kart and drive around the neighborhood?
Totally.
Actually, I can see John doing that.
Yeah. Now I can. Yeah. Now I'm like in the building phase of my life. Holy shit.
There was like there was a portion of my life where we didn't go to our grandmother's house, and we were doing it at my mom's house, like Christmas or Christmas Eve, one of those days. Anyway, and there was like a certain time, mom would walk into the kids' room, all the kids would be in one room, and she'd be like, "Hey, only leave this room if you got to use the bathroom. Whatever you do, don't go into the living room." Now, as a kid, you hear that, she's like, "What the fuck are they doing in that living room?" Right? And one time I walk in, I snuck by and I look, and I wanted to see what was going on. And I never seen that much money on a table before. Like to this day, I don't think I've ever seen that much money on the table. And I'm like, what? And I was like, hey, what is that? I was like, whose money is that? And my mom like, what esto you cabrón? Vete para allá. La, 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 la. And to this day, like I try to bring it up to my mom. She goes, what are you talking about?
Wow.
I don't remember
That was
anything.
and that was at Christmas?
They, they, they sold one of Kevin's brothers.
They were sewing. His brother was being sewn up in the like. Definitely don't go to the bathroom. It's like it's filled with ice.
Swallow these condoms, niño. Did you just spit take?
No, I didn't do it. I should have. I should have said yes just now.
Oh, I have one more terrible Christmas of mine. You remember I told you guys this?
No. Go ahead.
Remember I told you that it happened to be one of the years where I spent some time with my father over the weekend, and it fell on like a Christmas weekend.
Yeah.
And my father lived in a building complex that he owned a whole bunch of businesses in the mall that was built underneath it. And he had the movie theater in there.
Mhm.
So he would just give me free reign, and like I could just go watch movies, do whatever the fuck I wanted, because he wouldn't be there. He'd be off doing something else. So I must have been like 10 or 9. And I went down, and like the movie theater had this huge Christmas party going on. Some business, some like fucking, multi-million-dollar corporation rented the whole place out and was like throwing this ill corporate party. And they had like everybody who worked there in the theater at one point, and they were just like handing out bonuses and fucking gifts and shit.
There was a lot of people fucking in those theaters that day.
It was families. It was mostly families, like regular, normal, happy families.
I stand by what you said.
Yeah.
What?
For the sake of the story, they were fucking, Kevin.
And they had this thing set up where you would come up the escalator. At the top of it, it was Santa's workshop, and it was all the candy in the world you could fucking eat. They'd give you a bucket, and you could just fill it up with everything you wanted. I think I went through that like 4 times. And then like it was the part where like the kids were supposed to get their like stockings and shit. They had a big wall with stockings, and there wasn't one for me.
Because you just crashed somebody else's party.
Yeah, like what?
What am I supposed to feel bad for you? You dumbass. Yeah, you're trying to pull it off like this is such a tragedy. I just fucking
You had a
crashed the
whole,
party.
you had a whole movie. You know how great, you know how awesome that is? You had a complex to yourself, a whole movie complex to yourself. You could watch any movie you wanted.
First of all, it was whatever movie was playing. There was no movie playing. There was a corporation full of people giving toys to their kids that they loved that I got nothing in.
I wish the story went, and you stood on top of the table where like the cake was for the party, and he was like, "My father should not allow this. Everybody out! I declare everyone out." That would be awesome if you did that. If you were a little Nero, a little dictator.
I just didn't think of it in time. I needed you there to be my consigliere.
Oh man, I remember. What was fucking I think you've told that story lots of times on our old podcast. I think I've told this story once on the old podcast, but I think it's fitting. It's really fitting for me to tell this because I got what was coming to me. So you guys remember the Catskills, right? Or do you know, Josh?
I was just there.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about when my family
back in the day
we did maybe 3 trips where we, like when I was like 8, 9, and 10, and we went to the Catskills when at the Nevele and the Concord. These were the old hotels that like the Jewish comedy circuit would play in the 60s. Like it's depicted in Miss Maisel. Anyway, I got to go there at the end of its reign. And at like the Concord, like the adults would go and have their dinner at one like area of it, and the kids would go to like this other ballroom, right? And I think I was maybe 10 years old, and I didn't know anybody there. I think my sister was too young, so she was actually still allowed to be with the parents. Like they didn't like leave her with the kids table, right? So I'm at this table, and I don't know, I'm with all other kids, and I'm just start like joking around, I guess, with whatever was there to me. So I start making fun of a kid across the table. I was like, I was like, I don't know who I was commiserating with because like I didn't meet any of these kids, but
Sounds like, who let this black kid in?
I go to the kid next to me and I'm like, look at this funny face across the table, right? And I remember just thinking like, yeah, I mean, I just called him funny face, like that's it, ha 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 ha, right? Literally, the next thing I remember is having an arm with a cast on it crack me in the head repeatedly, and I got this. I literally got my brains beat out, and like they had to pull the kid off of me.
What'd you say to him?
I called him a funny face. I was literally sitting there with like a cup of milk, like eating a cookie, like
you fucking
this funny face across, and then I just got clobbered. And
was this at your mom's?
No, this was at the Concord or Neville.
But this is Jewish.
Yes.
This is a Jewish kid, yeah. He's not taking any shit. He took shit every day of his life at school. That was not going to happen at the Neville.
No.
Well, because all the Jewish kids knew they would only have to fight other Jews, so they thought they had a good chance.
He just had to be more aggressive than the other guy.
This kid must.
Had he had known you were half Mayan, he wouldn't have tried anything.
Listen, looking back at it, it 100% confirms that this kid did have a funny face. Yeah.
Well, for him to be triggered so harshly by that.
Yeah, I got him. I hit him where it hurts.
Yeah, somebody must have
I'm good at that. Listen, that's my talent.
He probably was going to be like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the Catskills and I'm going to be around my friends and they're not going to say those things.
Yo, it was like, honestly, when I think of that situation, I mean, that is such Lord of the Rings shit because like none of those kids knew each other, or they might have. I mean, I don't know how much of the percentage of it was like all like Jewish families who all went up to like so you, all these people, like the people who go up there every year, but like we weren't that like that.
Right.
Did the other kids laugh?
Yo, yes, that's the thing. I knew that it was true because like the people who I didn't even know were laughing. And I mean
they took him into the adults ballroom and they made John do it again.
What did the parents say?
Dude, what happened after that was I got clobbered, and this kid was kicking my ass so bad that he got pulled off and he got severely reprimanded because at that point it just looked like he was kicking the shit out of a skinny nerd. Like who clearly couldn't fight anyway. And he had a cast on, which was like a fucking battering ram.
Yeah, man.
And so I was bruised. I was like, I don't know if I had a black eye, but like I was like, my face was scratched up from like the plaster.
Mm-hmm.
And
which place was this again?
This was, I'm going to guess it was the Concord.
You could claim credits at the Concord, John.
Yo, the Neville, I mean, the Neville is abandoned. Like the Neville wouldn't be in business. Like by 96, it was gone. This was like 91 or 92. Anyway, so like I got clobbered and then like, I don't even think like, cause like where the parents were having dinner was like not even close. So like, I was like just crying to like the servers, like who didn't give a shit. Like they were like, whatever. And then I think I didn't eat at the kids' table for the rest of the weekend or something. I think it was just like, I think I might have like just ate with the parents. And I think my dad was like, of course, really pissed off at me because like we come here, we're having a nice time and you're going to try to insult people. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to get in trouble for,
Probably didn't give you puppet shows for a week.
I didn't at that time I wasn't getting puppet shows. Okay.
Do you remember your very last puppet show?
I do remember. So my dad used to do this sort of like comedy scenario because he was so like when I was 5 and 6, he was going to medical school because he thought he was gonna like get his doctor's
Doctorate?
license, right? Because he's a pharmacist, but so when I was a kid. Oh, I also told you guys that I got the shit scared out of me by Nightmare on Elm Street on Christmas Eve at my family's house one Christmas.
Ah,
Nightmare on Elm Street scared the shit out of me, and I couldn't even sleep. So my dad would like do these like little stories, and the stories were of like this doctor, because he was like going to med school, and it was of this doctor who would take amputated animal parts and put them on me. So he'd be like, Jonathan, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to take your nose off.
Oh,
We're
okay.
gonna have to put an elephant nose. Yep, that's what it says here on this chart. You're gonna have to do it. So then he'd be like, hey Spike, where's the elephant nose? And he's like, I think I left it at the bottom of the garbage can. Like, and he would go and get, and like I didn't even get that until later, that like, of course you wouldn't put like something you're gonna put on somebody's body from the bottom of a garbage can. Like, that's unsanitary. So my dad was a good comedy writer, is what I'm saying. No, but so then like
the last show.
the last show was like probably when I was like 9, because we would record them, and we record them episodically, and I had this cassette which I lost, but it was like, I thought this shit was the funniest stuff of all time, and like they were all on there, and I remember being like 8 years old, and we were like play wrestle and stuff, and I think like I was just like getting too big to like, or my dad was like was like in pain and he couldn't do that anymore. So he's like, no, we can't. And I remember just being like, what? Like, this is done? Like, we're never gonna like do this Dr. Fossil shit anymore?
so sad.
Yeah. Can you imagine, Josh? Like,
Well, Alex is he's gonna turn 8 in 2 weeks.
and do you even play with him?
Of course I do. Me and him, we play Fortnite together. We had the snowstorm a few days ago. I took him out. We threw snowballs at each other. That's my best friend, man. I love that guy, that kid. But he still wants me to pick him up and stuff. He makes Kevin throw him around the house sometimes. But like, I'll be outside. He's like, carry me. I'm like, dude, you're like 75 pounds. I'm like, I can. I'm a strong guy. I work out. But
yeah,
I was like, this is not really, I don't know if this is really normal anymore.
Yeah, you can't do it after a while. It's crazy.
He's 70 pounds. He's 65 pounds.
It's crazy because like, I remember like, it's funny. Like when you think you're a kid and you're a kid, and being a kid is fine with you. And then there's like, when you're like a preteen, you're pretty much still a kid, but you want so bad to be considered older.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then there's like being a teenager, which is like the greatest thing, because you're just like, I don't give a shit about anything. And you never want to be an adult that has real responsibilities. You know what I mean? And then then the page turns and you're like an adult and you're just like, fuck, I wish I could be a kid again.
Yeah. I never was a kid.
It is interesting to be around Alex, because otherwise I would never be around a 9-year-old. Right? Or like an 8-year-old.
He's 7 right now still.
Jesus Christ. Well, I would never be around a kid that age. I don't work around kids or anything like that. So anyway, I'm around him and I'm like, I see him do certain things and I'm like, these shitty adults who are around me, why do they care so much about nothing?
Totally.
Like, all you have to do is say, hey man, not a smart decision what you're doing right there. Like, you didn't have to like fuck me up at all. You didn't need to fuck me up at all. Like, people were hitting me left and right, and I was like, I'm
yeah,
like, why? Just talk. You could have just said anything to me. Oh, that makes sense. All right, cool. You're an adult. I'm gonna listen.
I agree with what you're saying, and I don't think you should. I think our parents were very fucking abusive, but he's also an exceptional kid. He's not a bad kid, and he's easy to reason with. He's a little bit. He likes to be a little manipulative sometimes, though.
Well, I feel like that's the sliding scale of like a kid. Like, I feel like when I was a kid, I lived in fear of my dad, and it like influenced like how my behavior was for the rest of my life. But there are people who like don't have any of that, and then they are fucking, it's like they do need to kind of get smacked around.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
also true. That's all. Like,
See, I feared my dad, but I would only see my dad a couple times a year. So there was,
I think around 13 or 14, you gotta give him a little bit of, hey, what are you doing over there? You know, like a little bit of, hey, stop acting like an asshole.
Yeah.
Right?
Wouldn't that be a cool job where like it's like, you know, parents who they want to discipline their kids, but they're not like they don't want to do it themselves. So like we start a business where we beat up kids.
Like around 14 or 15, if you're like, it's that's why you always got to be in shape as a dad, by the way. Like you got to be, if you're going to be a father, you got to be in some type of shape. Around 14 or 15, you got to show him a little bit of man strength. You got to like push him on his chest with, hey.
Yeah, they need to have a little, 100%.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing where I experienced that when I was a teacher. I was like I could not, like, I was so small and like not the like and also not like in my own shoes as like an adult, you know. I was like still like young, you know. So these high school kids were like fucking huge, and they were all exactly what Kevin says, like they were all like pushing against every boundary that was possible. And I'm like, this kid could kick my ass. What the fuck? It's like, all right, don't like cut my class. I don't give a shit. Like whatever. That's also, I was a very existential teacher. I was like, it doesn't matter if you do anything at all.
You told kids that?
Yeah, because like actually, you know, what's very funny is that when you go to school, when you go to get your degree for teaching, like get your master's and shit, or even before that, when you get your certification, there are 4 different type of teachers. There's like the authoritarian dictator style. There's like the whatever, like almost like the communist style where it's like we're all gonna like work together. There's like some other one I forget, but then there's the existential teacher who like truly in his heart doesn't really give a shit. And I'm like, that's the one I relate to.
Wait. Okay. Oh, they tell you, they map this out
Like
for you guys?
this is like been studied, and it's like this is like when you go and become a teacher, you're like, well, what is your teaching style? Like it could be one of these 4 things. And it like has to do with like who you are as a personality. I don't know. Maybe like I lean on that idea. Like honestly, if the kids don't give a shit, I'm like, I don't give a shit either. But when people do care about art and stuff, like I feel like I give so much. I'm like, oh, you're also have this mental disease. I'll help you. I'll help you along with it. Cause I do also, I'm trying to cope with being an artist.
I remember the last time my father hit me. I like, if you know, for you it was the puppet show was the last time, but but you know, I was like 13 years old, like 13 on the brink of 14, I think, and I got into like maybe a fight or two, and like I thought I could hold my own. You know, my father, I wouldn't see him for months at a time, and I was like, yo, if my dad ever comes in me and like with his fucking shit again, I was like, I'm gonna let him know not to fuck with me. And he came over to the house one day and he started like ripping on me about some shit. Like, you know, I wouldn't see him for months on end. And like, he would just come just to yell at me about some bullshit. And I was like, hey, man, fucking man, you don't talk to me like that anymore. This is my house. Now, mind you, my dad was a 6'3" Israeli gangster mafia enforcer. He hit me with a backhand. He didn't even hit me with the forehand. He went like this. Whoosh. And I instantly went from like tough guy, and I spinned. I went wee, and I instantly went from like tough guy, and I was like, "Excuse me, sir, can I get you something to drink?"
How great it would be if Josh like flipped upside down and his shoes and socks came off.
I went autistic. He hit me, and I was just like, "What would you like, sir? I'll do what you like, sir." And you know what he ended up doing? He ended up crying and begging me for forgiveness.
Wow.
So he didn't feel good about it.
Oh man.
So got him.
That's awesome, dude. No, my dad would I remember getting hit when I was like younger, but my dad moved on to like viciously like verbally breaking me down all the time. And that is,
If you know Jonathan Kaplan, you know why it's funny.
I was gonna say it's had no effect on you, Joe.
I mean, relentless, like unbelievable. I remember like trying various tactics to see how I could like jujitsu my way out of this. Like one time my dad was like fucking furiously like just attacking me, and like my dad would just be attacking me on all fronts. Like I could not hide from the lens of where I was vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I remember like I think I was like, oh, this will work. So like he's fucking yelling at me, and I'm like, I like dropped down on like my knees, and I was like, fine, like whatever, you're right. Like, and I just was like, I'm taking it. And he's like, get up, you fucking. I think he's just, I don't remember. I think he called me like, I don't know. It was like,
you know, you don't want to. You don't want to.
I know. I don't want to.
You don't want to disparage your father.
If you've been, the history hyenas call it a
FF.
an FF. Yeah. So it was just like, yeah, that's like the kind of abuse that I was less physical, more mental, more
That's abuse, man.
I love that. I love that. Like we were like, maybe we'll tell good Christmas stories, and then we were like, he was like, we don't got too many of these, buddy. Let's skip Christmas.
Yeah, we also were going to talk about a documentary, but I don't know if we have to talk about it. Do we want to talk about it? It doesn't matter.
I watched it.
Yeah,
I think Kevin and I watched it. I mean, it was only 15 minutes long. I mean,
well, the documentary I think like has a lot more to do than just it's a documentary called Wonderland, and it's about when you work as an artist for companies. Like, and that's like the kind of job that I've always had. Like I've always either been a photographer for companies or graphic designer or some like editor or whatever. But like that, like I went to art school, and that was like what I thought. There was in my head some type of glory or something great about it, because it was like, you're going to be an artist, but unlike artists who
in the past,
who basically starve, you're going to be an artist, but you're going to also make a living. And like in my whole life, like I've never, like in the agencies that are in this documentary are like, they do like the fucking top quality, you know, when you see commercials and you're like, this is a stupid ad, but it's kind of cool. Like, yeah. And then you've seen plenty of ads. Like I always thought, like when I was like, when in art school, I'm like, man, one day I'll go to one of those like cool New York City like ones. I never reached that level in my life. And I also got completely disillusioned with that world anyway. But I think and I'll let you guys talk, but I think like no matter what type of creative thing you do, the love of doing it has to like be smashed head first with whether it's commercially viable and what are the realities of that. And we all as artists have to like deal with that, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the gist of the documentary is if you're going to do something, you got to do it for love. Yeah. And if you're not, then you're gonna find yourself miserable.
For sure.
Well, those stories is like what's the name of the doc again?
Wonderland.
So
what part do they get to the Michael Jackson thing?
They never do, because that's in Neverland.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yo, when you hear those guys, when you hear those guys' experiences, it's like, oh, this is why I want to make it a stand-up first.
Right.
Like, I want to do stand-up first, and I want to continue. You could just, for the most part, you write, you perform your shit the way you want, and you get the people who want to hear your bullshit.
Right.
You don't want to have to write it themselves and do the work. Right?
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll get something out of, if you're going to work with people, they know exactly what they're getting. Right? For the most part.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Mitch Hedberg joke where he's like, when you get hired as a writer in comedy, they're like, oh, you know how to fish, but can you cook? Or like he like makes a joke where he's like, oh, you can fish, but can you
Right.
farm? Like but even within that, like you're a comic because you're pursuing comedy, but until like you're you still have to be a sellable entity to
You do.
clubs, or
You do.
getting passed at a club, or getting booking a tour means there's a level of what you are, and then there's the in between of what you've honed yourself to be somewhat marketable to a bigger audience than what you just your shit. And from doing shows, it's like it's not always just about what you want. In fact,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like a 25% of what you want, and then like how to work.
How do I get this to work for everybody so it can be palatable for everyone?
Exactly.
But today I deferred the job, right? Like a buddy called me. He goes, Kev, I'm working for this somebody who wants to be in Congress. I don't know, some shit in Queens. I don't know what they want to do. They want to do some political shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good buddy. And he's like, I want to do like a Zoom. Immediately, I'm turned off. I'm like, I don't want to do anything with Zoom. I don't want to like I don't want to be a part of this at all, right? So, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, you've seen me do comedy. You've seen the shit I say. You see the people. You see me produce a show. You see the kind of people I book. What makes you think this is a good idea? Like, why would you think this is gonna work? This lady wants to be a senator or some shit. You want
Kevin, though. I mean, here's where like I would say, and this is like what the documentary is about, is like, yes, but what if you were so creative that you could actually write something that she would be like, oh, this is great. Here's $800. That's a day's work.
Or that's for free.
What? Oh, it's for free?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be free. I was like, no, I'm not.
What I'm saying is like,
I'll take it. I'll do it.
The compromise of your artistic, like for instance, like I have only worked as a photographer as like a hired gun photographer. Like I know people who they're passionate about photography. They love, they're nuts about the art of it. About photography, like composition and stuff, like I do like think in those terms, like in an artistic way, but like, I'm like, if I have a camera, like I know I can pay for things. Like I know I can get work. I've been doing it since I'm 16 years old. So it's like, I don't have like what is it? What is the word that I'm looking for? Sensitivity. Like, or what is it? Like a preciousness about the craft of photography. I'm like, it's a thing that I know I had to turn a profit with. If we all love our other creative things that we do so much that we're like, no, we're protecting it from getting it diluted by commerce. This is what you're saying. You know what you do, and you don't want to dilute it for anybody. Which is
I don't want to dilute it. By the way, it's just like by the way, the moment I mentioned what's the budget, you should see how quickly these conversations go. Yeah, I'll get back to you real quick on that, and then they never hit you up, right? Like you really want me for the love of the game, and then tell comics, oh, by the way, you can't say this, you can't say that. Oh, and we're raising money for this person who wants to run for this.
For sure. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of things that you just like run away from that. But I mean, even Josh, like you were saying about this this audition thing that you were doing, like you have to like hit the bullseye for this person who's like has status, and also you admire his work. But besides all of that, it's fitting you into a particular mode of performance that is moving you away from being comfortable. And in order to get it, and in order to get the thing and get the job, you have to like move out of what you'd like to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we all have to do that in some way.
Well, the thing is also, I know I can do whatever he wants me to do, like really well. So like having to, like there's a resentment, I'm not a fucking kid. So like having to prove my fucking self, like you want to give me the part or not? Like I have to fucking grovel and fucking jump through fucking hoops and shit. And like
people do auditions. I mean, people do self tapes for auditions. Marianne does it like every
something.
other day.
I only started doing acting because I was too afraid to do stand-up comedy. I'm a fucking stand-up comedian, and that's what I like doing. And putting fucking like my heart into some fucking role isn't as rewarding at the moment. I don't know if it ever will be again, as fucking getting in front of people and saying things.
See, I have a different attitude about it than you guys. And I wouldn't say that I'm like completely like, I think that the like comedy is a skill at converting experiences in life and like in your mind converting them into fantasy that can make people laugh, where you take things that happened and you cut them up and then rewrite them, refilm them, whatever, into ways that like can break or surprise people into laughter. And it's a skill. It's just a thing like fucking learning how to do photography or learning how to draw. And it's just that. And you can apply it in various things. Like, and that's like, I'm not as, I don't necessarily see myself in a thing that's one thing. And I think it's because I've had my heart broken by art before. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on the show, but I was in a band.
Yeah.
And that was like an identity. I was like, this is what I am, and I will only be happy with myself if I'm like this. Right. And I was that, and I got to be it, and then it ended. And then I was like, who the fuck am I? And then it's like, if I'm gonna ever, I'm not, it was like, and that was like,
and you chose to end.
Well, you know,
listen, you didn't have to stay with that group. You could have, there's people. Go ahead.
You're right, Josh. You're right. Like, I chose to end, but I chose to end because like the moment had passed in my life, and I was not like, I had done like, after my band broke up, I had done like being a solo guitar guy, like Bob Dylan, whatever type of shit. And it was just like, it's not speaking to me. There's a thing about music where it's like, it's all about the mystery of the persona. Like you are creating a mystery about yourself. And I'm like, that's not interesting to me. What I ended up finding was like, I would rather be interested in exploring the sadness or the stupidity. The next thing I did after improv, after being in a band, was getting into clown. Essentially, improv led me to clown, which I really found myself on because I was like, this makes sense. Like, we are all idiots. I want to like be the idiot of life. You know, that's, I feel like, a more truthful bearing of my soul than like being like a mysterious musician who's like who basically, I feel like a lot of musicians are just like sneakily fooling the audience into believing that they're not real. I mean, there's truth to music, but I feel like sometimes it's like I'm cooler. I'm like a superhero, or I'm like cooler than just a regular person who is flawed, you know?
Right. For me,
look at Kevin trying to talk, but you just talking over him. Kevin, you also got to take your thumb off of the mic. I don't know why that.
I'm not on. I'm not. I don't know. There's something off with this MacBook Air.
Could be.
And the mic.
Yeah. You were gonna say something though. I saw your mouth start to talk.
No, I was just trying to think of an artist who like is cool as shit. Who I thought was cool as shit, and then like and then it shattered for me. And I like who? Like maybe Jay-Z's one.
Oh yeah. At what point did you say? At what point did Jay-Z break for you? Because I love Jay-Z too.
I love Jay and I love his music, and he's still kind of cool as shit. But then he'll do something real corny, and I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, I think that when Jay-Z and Beyonce got together, I was like, it's not the same Jay-Z. because like the Jay-Z for me is like the
I don't fuck about it.
Reasonable Doubt through Blueprint. Reasonable Doubt through Blueprint. That's like the mythology. After that, I'm like, it's not. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Damn, son. Yeah, Beyonce, you fucked that shit up, bro. You just made him more money.
She yokoed Jay-Z.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, no, she at least has talent and she's good.
And actually, I was also into Destiny's Child. So,
well, you know what? That means there'll be some great music in the future when they divorce.
They're not divorced. It's too much money.
No.
Too much money at stake.
I heard that he's going to leave her for Foxy Brown.
Foxy Brown is like literally deaf now.
I can't hear you. What?
And we'll leave it at that, guys. This has been a great Christmas episode. Thank you guys for hanging.
I'm sorry for depressing everybody.
No, it's good. You were real. You were real in it. Next week, we're going to be joined by Mayors, and we're going to do a big end of the year fiasco jam.
Yeah, let's have a fiasco jam. That's what we need.
Is it going to be New Year's yet, or what date is that going to be?
It'll be midweek. I don't know. We'll do it. We'll figure it out.
We're doing a 2020 recap, no?
We're gonna
so maybe it'll be 2021. And everything
favorite moments. Let's do moments where we're like, holy shit, what is going on here?
Dude, not only that, but but also like the three of us, like we transformed this 2020. We went from Gigolos to Wiki After Dark.
Yeah.
Holy shit, yeah, we did.
We're adults now.
We mate.
Yeah, guys. Anyway, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Love you.
Love you too.